She served at her sister's engagement through tears, until the wealthy heir chose her instead. Nobody in the family ever asked Nadia how she was doing. Not because they didn't have time, they just never thought to. She was the quiet one. The one who made sure dinner was ready before everyone sat down. The one who remembered which cousin had a birthday next week. The one who stayed up late handling things so that everyone else could sleep without worry. She was always there, and because she was always there, nobody really saw her. Her older sister Yasmin was the kind of person who walked into a room and changed its temperature. People turned toward her the way flowers turn toward sunlight, automatically, without thinking. She laughed loudly, and dressed beautifully, and had opinions about everything. And their mother loved her the way you love a light that makes every corner brighter. Nadia was loved too, she supposed. But it was a quieter kind of love. The kind that doesn't come with much celebration. When the news came that Yasmin was getting engaged, the whole house turned upside down in the most joyful way. Their mother cried happy tears. Their father made phone calls. Cousins were contacted. A date was set. A hall was booked. And Nadia was handed a clipboard and a list of things that needed to be organized. Nobody asked if she was okay with it. Nobody stopped to wonder if it felt strange, being the younger sister who coordinates the centerpieces at her older sister's engagement party. It was just assumed. She was dependable, she would handle it, and she did, because that is what she always did. The night before the party, Nadia sat on the edge of her bed and looked at the list in her hands. Caterers, seating arrangements, flowers, welcome sign, gift table. She read through it all, and for just a moment, she let herself feel something she usually kept buried. It wasn't jealousy exactly. It was more like a quiet sadness. The kind that comes when you realize you've been skipped over so many times that it has started to feel normal. She folded the list. She turned off the light. She told herself tomorrow was just another day of work, and she would get through it the same way she got through everything else, by being useful, by being invisible, and by not making a sound about what it cost her. The hall was everything her mother had dreamed of. White flowers everywhere. Long tables draped in cream cloth. Chandeliers hanging from the ceiling like frozen rain. Nadia arrived 3 hours before the guests. Checked everything twice. Fixed a crooked centerpiece. Redirected a confused delivery driver. And made sure the right playlists were queued. By the time people started arriving, she had already been working for hours. Her feet hurt. She hadn't eaten. But she smiled at every relative who walked through the door and pointed them toward their seats, like she was built for exactly this. Yasmin arrived like the event had been waiting for her. She came in laughing, arm linked with her mother's, her outfit perfect, her hair perfect, her joy completely real and completely radiant. Nadia watched from near the back wall and felt something complicated move through her chest. Love for her sister and grief for herself, and the effort of holding both at once without letting either one show. Then the Al-Rashid family arrived. Zion walked in with his parents and 2 of his brothers, and the room shifted a little, the way rooms do when someone important enters. He was well-dressed, composed, and had the kind of face that didn't give very much away. He shook hands with Nadia's father, kissed her mother's cheek politely, and stood beside Yasmin in all the photographs with the practiced ease of a man who had been in many formal situations and knew how to carry himself through them. Nadia didn't pay him much attention. She was too busy making sure the caterers didn't put the vegetarian dishes on the wrong table. It was around 40 minutes into the evening when she slipped out of the main hall and into the quieter corridor outside. She needed 60 seconds away from the noise. She stood near the wall, closed her eyes, and exhaled slowly. She had a small plate of food she'd grabbed in a hurry, the first thing she'd eaten all day, and she was eating it standing up in a corridor while music played on the other side of the door. She heard footsteps and opened her eyes. Zion was coming around the corner, with the slightly startled look of someone who had also been looking for a quiet place to breathe. They stared at each other for a second. She straightened immediately and started to say sorry, assuming she was somehow in his way. He shook his head and said she wasn't, and that he had actually come out here to escape a very long conversation about property investments. She almost smiled at that. Almost. He leaned against the opposite wall and looked at her plate. He said he hadn't eaten anything either, and that the food at these events was always placed somewhere you could see it, but never actually reach. She said that was true. He asked her how she was finding the evening. She blinked at him, because no one had asked her that all night. Not once, not in passing, not even as a formality. She said it was loud. He laughed. An actual laugh, not a polished social one. He said he completely agreed. They stood in that corridor and talked for about 10 or 12 minutes. She wasn't sure about what, exactly. Just things. Small, honest things. He asked what she did, and she told him she worked in event management, which was almost funny given the circumstances. He said that explained the clipboard. She asked if he actually wanted to be at this engagement. He paused, and the pause was its own kind of answer. He said he was committed to doing the right thing by both families. She heard what he didn't say inside that, and she didn't push it. Someone came to find her. The welcome banner had come loose. She excused herself and went back inside. He stayed in the corridor for another minute before following. That night, on the drive home, Nadia sat in the back of the car and thought about absolutely nothing. She was too tired. She stared out the window and watched the city lights blur past and told herself the conversation in the corridor was just a small, strange moment that didn't mean anything. People have moments like that at parties. It didn't mean anything. Zion, meanwhile, sat in his own car on the way home and thought about a woman eating a plate of food alone in a hallway while music played behind a closed door, and about how she'd answered every question he asked, like she'd already thought through her honest response and decided it was worth giving. He couldn't stop thinking about it. In the weeks that followed, the engagement moved forward the way these things do, formally, carefully, with many family dinners and phone calls and decisions being made about dates and venues and guest lists. Yasmin was excited. Their mother was in full planning mode. Nadia managed the shared family calendar and made sure no one double-booked anything. Zion, quietly and without telling anyone, began to understand something about himself that he had been avoiding for some time. He had agreed to this engagement because it made sense on paper. Two good families, compatible backgrounds, a future that looked correct from every angle. But he had never once, in all the months of meetings and arrangements, felt the way he had felt in that corridor. That quiet, that seen, that like himself. He asked a mutual contact about the Hassan family and was told, without much detail, that the younger daughter was the one who held everything together. He sat with that information for a few days. Then he did something that surprised even him. He went to the Hassan house. Nadia answered the door in an old dupatta and flour on her hands because she had been helping prepare something in the kitchen. She looked at him the way you look at something that doesn't make sense, slowly, waiting for it to resolve into something logical. He asked if they could speak privately. She stared at him for another second. Then she stepped outside and closed the door behind her. He didn't come with a speech. He told her the truth simply, that he had been honest with himself and realized the engagement was not fair to either him or Yasmin because his heart wasn't in it the way it should be. He told her about the corridor. He told her he wasn't sure what he was asking exactly, only that he wanted the chance to know her properly. Nadia was quiet for a long time. Then she said, very calmly, that this was extremely complicated and possibly the most difficult situation she had ever stood in. He said he knew. She said her sister would never forgive her. He said he understood that. She said she wasn't the kind of person who walked into things without thinking them through. He said he could see that clearly. Then she asked him, and this was the question that told him everything he needed to know about her. She asked him what he wanted his life to actually feel like. Not what he wanted it to look like from the outside. What he wanted it to feel like. He didn't have a quick answer. He thought about it properly. And then he told her. What happened next was not easy. Zayn stepped back from the engagement. He did it with full respect to both families, took responsibility, and never mentioned Nadia's name in any of those conversations. Yasmin was furious. Their mother was heartbroken. The Hassan house became a very difficult place to be for several weeks. Nadia was accused of things that weren't true, in voices that were too loud, by people who loved her, but were also in pain and looking for somewhere to put it. She didn't argue. She didn't defend herself dramatically. She just stayed, present, quiet, absorbing, the way she always had. But this time, something inside her had shifted. She stopped apologizing for things that weren't her fault. She stopped making herself smaller to fit inside the space the family had decided was hers. She was still gentle. She was still kind, but she had stopped erasing herself, and that was new. Zion came to speak to her father about 6 weeks after the engagement ended. He came properly, formally, with his own father beside him. He explained who he was beyond the family name, what he worked toward, what he believed in, how he lived. He asked for the opportunity to pursue a proper relationship with Nadia the right way. Her father sat with it for a long time. He was a man who had, for years, allowed the household to overlook his younger daughter without saying anything about it. He knew that. He sat with that too. And then he said yes. Nadia was in the kitchen when her father came to tell her. She set down what she was holding and looked at him. He couldn't quite meet her eyes at first. She didn't make him. She just nodded, and thanked him quietly, and went back to what she was doing so he could leave the room with his dignity. Later that evening, she walked out to the front of the house. Zion was standing at the gate. No flowers, no speech. Just him, in a simple coat, looking slightly nervous in a way she found unexpectedly human. He asked if she was sure she wanted to go through with this, with all the difficulty it would bring, with everything it had already cost her. She thought about it honestly, the way she thought about everything. She thought about the years of being the one who carried things without being asked, the years of standing at the edge of rooms where she didn't quite belong, the years of keeping herself small and tidy and out of the way. She thought about a corridor, and a plate of food she ate standing up, and a man who laughed a real laugh and asked her how she was finding the evening. She said yes, and that was how it started. Not with fireworks or grand declarations, but with a gate opening and two people choosing each other quietly, in the middle of everything that had tried to keep them apart. She had spent so many years making sure everyone else's moments went smoothly. This one, for the first time, was hers. End.